All right, so I let the clay get a little bit more leather hard, and I went ahead and did some texture on it. What I did is I have these little tiny dinosaur skeletons that I found at Walgreens, and I bought them for my son's first birthday because we're going to do dinosaur theme, which is like forever away, but they were skeletons. I thought I couldn't find them again if I waited. So I pressed them into the clay, so it created some fun little textures when I did that. The other thing I did is I already cut out this dinosaur here, and I cut out the center piece, and I'll use that as part of the foot in the back and later. So I'll set him aside. And then we're just going to focus on this piece, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. Where'd my butter knife go? There it is. So we're going to cut this guy out, and I could use my straight edge. I also went ahead and drew some letters that I liked, and I'm going to try to like incorporate some bones and stuff in the letters, so we'll see how that goes. So I'll use my straight edge here to cut out these edges, and I put my project on the paper towel so that way it would get like help absorb some of that that moisture. So you can decide to do that or not. It's up to you guys. It sometimes will just take a little bit longer if you let it just dry normally. So I'm just taking my butter knife and cutting off these edges, and I'll go around and clean up the edges later on that. Try not to mess up your texture. I'm slowing down when I get to the corners because I don't want to pull it. I want it to be still nice, crisp edges. So I'm starting on one side, and then I'm just, I might pull it like a little of the way, and then I'm going to just kind of chomp down so that it creates a nice straight edge, that it doesn't pull that corner away. And because I let it get leather hard, it's not as difficult. And then I'm going to do the inside. I think for the inside, though, I think I'm going to do my X-Acto knife. You could still use the butter knife, but I want to just make sure that I'm getting, like, perfect corners. So you could still use the butter knife. You just want to be a little bit more precise. Do not cut all the way through. You got to keep that line there because that's what's going to make it more stable. So you want to make sure that and you don't mess up the inside square as much as possible because you're going to use that for your foot later. Oops, dang it. We'll have to try to fix that. It's going so fast. Try not to talk as I'm doing this. I use the inside, so if you do a fun shape, I'm using the inside shape for the foot, but sometimes you might have to, depending on what the shape is, you might have to use something else. So this one was a T-Rex that I used for that shape. I know the ink on there is distracting, but we'll have to we might have to do a little doctoring up on the back side of that, maybe a little. Try to keep this as flat as possible in between working on it. Mine's pretty leather hard, but you want to make sure that it's not going to warp. So you want to make sure that it stays as flat as possible. I'm kind of moving things out of the way because now I'm going to work on the letters. So I just drew my letters on some Post-it notes here of where I wanted them. I'm going to put them here. But I'm only going to cut out a few of these. So I've got Davis, and then he was born in the year 20. So I'm going to take my X-Acto knife, and I'm just going to, I'm just actually going to trace. I'm not going to cut all the way through. I'm going to cut all the way through the paper, but I'm not going to cut all the way through the clay right now because I'm just trying to get an edge on here. I don't want to... I don't want to try to cut all the way through yet. I'm just trying to get the outline, I guess is what I'm trying to say, the outline. So I'm kind of doing a little jabbing, per se. More like little stitches, like connecting the dots. Okay, so I want that one, and then I want the little eye here, which I'm trying to make look like a bone. We'll see how this goes. So I think I'm going to have better luck cutting these out, like once I have them, once the paper's gone. That's why I'm just doing the outline right now, because I feel like the paper is just going to get in my way. And I don't want it to get in my way. So I'm just going to try to go around my little outline here. Okay. And then I can just kind of make that edge there. Okay, so now I'm going to pull this away because these letters I'm actually going to, perfect. I'm actually going to do on this, but that's why I wanted to keep them kind of on theirs, because I wanted to make sure. Okay, so I've got my I and my D over here, so I've got to move this guy closer without warping it. Can you see that? Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to do my A, and I'm again just going to kind of go around it. Just because I want to make sure I'm getting all my little details. I just love this style A. I never write like that. So I think it's fun. And I'm going to play around with levels of relief like we did with the box. And like the V, I'm actually going to end up carving the V all the way in. Well, not all the way in, like not all the way out, but I'm going to carve it like it's like dug out. So it's kind of, it's moving on me. It's moving. So you need at least 3 numbers or letters that are cut out completely and placed on the front. Oh yeah, that worked out good. Okay, now I got to do my S. It took me forever to make this S. The S's are so hard for me, and I don't know why. But they are. I think just because I never quite know how to make them perfect, but I feel like this one's pretty good. Voila. Okay, and then for this one, I'm going to do I think I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to do the 0. I guess I can just use this guy here, because I can just do it right in the middle. We'll make it real interesting here. Okay, so I'm going to cut the 2 out, because I have to have 3 pieces that are cut out completely. And then my other ones can be whatever I want them to be. And it's not going to be easy, guys, cutting these letters out. They're going to be a doozy. Some of these I'll just draw on. Some of them will be like cut into it. We kind of just have to decide as we go. Boom. Okay. All right. So now that I've got all my little things where I want it, now I got to cut them out. So I'm going to kind of set this aside because these are not actually getting cut out. Remember, we don't want to mess up our frame here. So I'm going to set it to the side so I have lots of room to work with this one. And like I said, I'm going to use my X-Acto knife here so I get a nice, crisp, clean edges. And I like to just cut off all the pieces that I don't need. So with my D, I kind of just cut and get things out of my way. Can you guys see that? Barely. And you can see like I'm holding edges so things don't warp. And before I attach any of these letters that I'm cutting out, I'm going to want to clean up any edges. Because once I attach it, it's going to be more difficult to clean up those edges. So I'm going to go through here. See if I can just poke it through. Maybe the other way. Oh, there we go. Maybe this line needs to be better. Okay, so I got one. This little 2 is going to be so tiny. What was I thinking? Also think about that too, though, guys. Like, the smaller you make your letters, the more difficult they are going to be to cut out. So think about that when you're drawing them, and maybe make them a little bit bigger. Just maybe. Or if you're like me and stubborn, you'll just make it work. Oh man, oh look how narrow I made that. I actually cut it at an angle. Dang it. We'll have to see if this will work. I might be able to make it work, but dang it. Maybe it'll just be, maybe it'll work just fine. Who knows? Okay, so now with my 2, like I said, I like to cut away pieces I don't need, and then I can look just looking at angles. And of course, I'm cutting off the board again. Okay, so I've got my itty bitty little baby too. And I'm going to try to make sure not to cut at an angle on this guy. Because if I got to redo 1 over, that's fine, but doing more than 1, it's going to be a pain. And I let these get leather hard with the frames because now it's a lot easier to cut them. If I were to begin doing these cuts without letting them get leather hard, then these cuts would be almost impossible. Because even still, they're pretty small, pretty tight cuts. Okay, so now that I've got these all cut out, now what I need to do is clean up the edges. So I can use my paintbrush, or I can use my little piece of fabric that I cut, or I've even got that little piece of sponge. I think I'm going to use my little sponge. So I'm just going to go around the edges and just make them nice and clean. If you have texture that you want to put on these, you can put texture on them. I think because I have so much texture going on my with my dinosaur bones, I think I'm gonna just make these simple. But you want to make sure you got all nice smooth edges. You don't want any sharpness going on. So I'm just taking my finger over edges, just making sure it's nice and smooth. Any little cut marks I get, I can rub them away. Get any boogers off I need to. And with the inside edges like this here, I can just either use my little straight edge, or I can use my paintbrush. And we'll be back in a few minutes to attach.